Hello, everybody, and welcome to Joe Sammet Live. We're not actually live today, we're pre-recorded, and we'll be going back to weekly live sessions, most likely in the new year. But in the meantime, we want to record some sessions in advance so that way we can post as many things as possible over the holiday season. So, again, welcome, and very nice to virtually see you all today. Today, I have a very special guest, somebody very near and dear to my heart. It's my son, Ben Sammet. Most of you, if not all of you, know who Ben is. Ben worked with us in the mortgage industry for over 4 years, and then he went out to pursue other ventures, still in the finance world, but he has pretty extensive knowledge on the mortgage industry and mortgage products and services. And he's bringing today a pretty fresh perspective on millennials in the mortgage business and what millennials perhaps are looking for. So again, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Benjamin Sammet, my son. Hi, Ben.
Hi, long time no see.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming. Today, again, you bring a pretty fresh perspective on millennials in the mortgage world and what millennials are looking for. So we have just a few questions that we want to talk about. And I want to refer back to, I can remember when you first started looking at your first condo and all the trials and tribulations that you went through trying to figure out when to buy, where to buy, what to buy, was it the right time, how are you going to do it? And I know that perhaps the first condo wasn't your dream condo, but it got you into the housing market. So let's start with that and just talk about, from that perspective, what was it like for you being a new time or first time buyer, breaking into the mortgage market? How frightened were you? What obstacles did you have to overcome?
Well, I mean, it's definitely an intimidating process, and even having worked in the industry, I remember going through the signing of documents that I wasn't that familiar with, and walking through sort of the unpredictable side of things. But I think one of the biggest things that really started to hit home was the fact that this was now mine. I could now have the pride of home ownership. I wasn't just living in a dorm or something like that. So the ability to have ownership and sort of get that rite of passage and go through that growing up process was pretty interesting. But what I was trying to do really was go through it in as normal a process as possible. Like I wanted to see through the eyes of what a client sees rather than just someone who works in the industry, knows the lenders they're working with and everything. So it was intimidating, I'd say.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah.
I mean, very intimidating from not just looking at multiple units, but then what does it mean to have a mortgage, pay taxes, pay maintenance fees? You could actually put yourself in the shoes. And in your case, like you said, you were looking at it as an assistance to help you understand the perspective of one of our mortgage borrowers. But more importantly, it helped you, as you said, get into adulthood and figure out real life. So intimidating, yes, but were you happy when you took the first step?
Oh yeah, and I mean it was really cool because it gave me the opportunity when I was working with realtors where they'd say, okay, we're going to look at these 5. Let me know what you think of this, this, and this. I as a first-time home buyer, I was particularly young, but I remember going like, me, like I get to decide this. So it was a pretty cool involvement in the process because it's one thing that I did realize is I needed to make it my decision, whether that's you have parental help or not. It's your home, it's your asset, it's your commitment that you're making. So I almost had to commit to decisions that I was making, which was a new concept.
Okay, that's good.
That sounded irresponsible, but you know what I mean?
Well, no, I don't think it's irresponsible. It's all part of growing up. And I can remember the conversation you and I had initially was, I said to you one day, you don't understand what a consumer or what a homeowner is going through because you haven't lived it, you haven't experienced it. So that gave you the opportunity to break into that and get a fresh perspective on what people were going through. What does it mean to have to come up with a down payment? What does it mean to pay a lawyer? What does it mean to start making regular mortgage payments? And did you look at that first condo as your stepping stone to get to where you are today, to move up the ladder, move up the real estate ladder? Or were you looking at that, what was it, a 540 square foot condo, the first one? Looking at that as the place you were going to raise a family, or probably not. You were looking at that as somewhere to get you where you needed to be next, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'll admit I was 23, so part of it was okay, where are the closest bars? But at the same time, I needed to make sure that I wasn't just finding somewhere that'd be fun to live. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to go broke on a home or end up sort of destitute. And I mean, I was fortunate enough where at the time the Toronto market was on fire, and it still pretty much is. But you can't really liken that to the same home buying process in somewhere like Woodstock or Ottawa. So I think that for me, it was, again, that sort of slap of reality of thinking, all right, this makes sense from a lifestyle perspective, but can this be sustainable financially? Can this be something that, I can hold myself accountable to? And, if this is a bad decision, how can I sort of live through that loss? And I don't think that it was a scare tactic or anything that was too frightening, but it made me really hold myself again accountable to those decisions, because now suddenly there were more factors than just, this is going to be a cool place with me and my roommates, right?
Okay, that's good. Well, I appreciate that perspective, because I can remember when you went through it, it was not only were you nervous and frightened, perhaps somewhat resistant to it. Mom and I, we looked at it and thought, oh my God, our boy's growing up, what's he doing? But to get you to that point where you were able to buy a condo and use it as a stepping stone for your future real estate endeavors, I think it was a great thing to do. And part of the conversation today is to let people know that don't wait. Wait, think it out properly, plan it out properly, but don't overthink it. Don't have, what's the expression, paralysis by analysis. Don't analyze things to death. You have to pull the trigger and just get into the housing market, whether it's going to be your lifelong home or your stepping stone to get to the next one. So again, great. You did a great job. Let's talk about the questions that we have here. And this is a general question. It's not a specific deal related question. But let's say your parents have given you a gift that you're using for the down payment for the house you're buying with your partner. Is this a good idea? So I run into situations all the time where I have a couple buying a property, and maybe married, not married, maybe just newly dating, who knows? And one of the parents is perhaps giving a gifted down payment. The one thing that is probably one of the most difficult conversations to have amongst the young couple, or a couple in general, is making sure that they can protect, one of them can protect the asset that perhaps they're coming into the relationship with, whether it be their own funds or whether it be gifted funds from parents. So the question is, do you think it's a good idea to have gifted funds for a down payment? And if it is a good idea, what can somebody do to protect themselves? And more importantly, protect each other, not against one another, but protect what asset they've all worked so hard to accumulate. What's your advice?
Well, I think a lot of people sort of treat it as if my mother-in-law or father-in-law is going to have they want to put some sort of, security on the property to make sure that they can, I can't lay claim to it or something like that. I think a lot of people sort of approach that with hostility. But I don't think that, ego has any place in this, because especially I just think if you look at our situation when I bought my first place, which again, I wanted to stress was one of the best decisions I ever made. But if I was fortunate enough to be buying as a single person, so I didn't really have to navigate those politics too much, but I have since navigated those. And I've also seen a lot of close friends and family that have done it as well. And one of the biggest things that I realized was that, some people will take, protection of 10 grand, 100 grand, $300,000 as a gift, as an insult or, a disbelief or a lack of faith in the relationship. But I don't think it's that at all. I think the fact that when in-laws or parents are willing to put their money on the line for you, they really are trying to give you a boost and a next step, which, so long as there's no toxicity there, I think really you've got some show of love there, right? So I think that there's the practicality side where you want to make sure that you are protecting yourself legally. You want to make sure that there's, fairly frank discussions that are being had with everybody. And honestly, if the parents don't really care about getting their money back and it's just here you go, all the best, call it an early wedding present or whatever you want, then that's their prerogative. But I think that the first person to get offended is usually the one that's going to lose out on the entire opportunity, because you've got to be mature about it.
No, that's again, maturity is the key thing. And like you said, there's no room for ego. So if you have the opportunity to have gifted funds, if you have the opportunity to have somebody help you get a leg up, by all means, benefit by it and make sure that you protect everybody in the equation. And there's no room for anybody to get offended. It's a great idea as long as everybody starts on the same page and knows exactly what their responsibilities and obligations are. Should you use an inheritance to purchase a house with a partner? and what happens with that money. That's pretty much the same thing, an inheritance, a gift. As long as, and I know I've asked you the question, and maybe I'll just jump into maybe my perspective or my answer that I would give to a client. And it goes very much as question number one, and that is make sure that it's documented, make sure that you protect yourself, make sure that your partner, whoever that partner may be, is fully aware of what you came into that relationship with, and make sure that somebody honors and respects that obligation of that gift or that inheritance. So what's your perspective on that? What do you think?
Well, and I think again, like you're not really going to have a very romantic conversation when you're talking about things like this. It's very similar to a prenup, right? They have a purpose. They don't necessarily, make you feel the warm fuzzies. But I think that really the more candid conversations that you can have with someone, I would say, are more so just around the feelings of things, not whether or not you should make the decision. I think they're just the decisions or the right thing to do is fairly laid out already. And I think as a professional broker, you've already got the ability to give sort of step-by-step guidance on that. But really the conversations are more so surrounding things like, okay, listen, this is why they want to protect this money, either with a ghost or a phantom mortgage, for example, or if they want to have some sort of conditional back-end agreement that just says, should there be a dissolution or whatever it may be. But I think at the same time, though, it's more so a conversation of setting expectations. So, okay, your parents or my parents have gifted funds for us to buy this. How much of a say do they have in this? Are they now, they've gifted the funds and now it's silence? Or, are they now considered an active investor in our home as well? And then they get a say in what things can and can't be done. You've got to understand that they've also got a financial commitment on the line that they either need to know up front that they're not allowed to say anything about, or you want to make sure that they are comfortable because they've got a vested interest in your home, whether it's seen as an investment or it's just seen as a parking of money. You've got multiple people with feelings, so you've got to make sure that all parties are managed, right?
No, I think that's a great idea, because one thing that I'll say to a client that is in this situation is, regardless of who is involved, whether it's your parents, your partner, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whomever, treat it like a business transaction. And if you treat it like a business transaction and you all know exactly where you stand from the get-go, there's going to be no surprises down the road. So those are the points.
It's kind of like, if I could just really quickly, it's kind of like having a baby, right? If you want to set the expectation ahead of time that the in-laws are over every single day, that's great. If you also want to set the expectation that you're going to move away to Vancouver because you can't stand your in-laws, that's fine too. But just make sure that all expectations are set.
There you go. Okay. Question: what was the interest rate when you bought your condo? Do you remember?
Ooh. Yes, it was 2.94%, 5-year fixed, and it was an absolute steal.
Okay, so to put it in perspective for a lot of the people that are going to be watching this or sharing this video, when I bought my first home, or your mom and I bought our first home, our interest rate was, I believe, either 11.25% or 11.75%. And
that's outrageous.
The house prices were much less than they are today. But no matter how you slice it, when you're looking at interest rates like you experienced and where they are today, sub 2%, it's absolutely out of this world. So anybody that was buying the home back in the 80s, 90s, they would have realized, or they would have experienced interest rates that were the mid 5-6% range and all the way up to double digits. And in some cases in the early 80s, as high as 20-21%. So I think it's important for anybody that's looking at buying something today as that stepping stone that we talked about earlier, to get into the housing market today when interest rates are at the lowest level in mortgage history. It's an incredible opportunity for people to benefit by. So, why pay somebody rent when you can take that same dollar and buy a home? And put this in perspective, is that every mortgage payment you're making, with interest rates being as low as they are, more than half of your mortgage payment is going to build your principal and reduce your mortgage balance. So from that standpoint, it's a huge savings opportunity for people as well. So when you bought, so let's look at the emotion and then let's look at the common sense. When you bought your first condo, you wanted that hangout pad where you could just go and chill with your buddies and have fun. And like you said, you wanted to know where the nightlife was in Toronto. But were you also looking at it from a forced savings aspect, or did that even cross your mind?
Well, I remember the forced savings aspect, but that was simply because I was in the industry, right? Had I just been a normal consumer, I don't think I really would have seen it that way. But for me, going back to the politics conversation about it, I mean, full disclosure, you and mom helped me with the mortgage, right? And when you see parents helping either through covering closing costs or gifting a down payment or just co-signing, my initial reaction, especially as a younger first-time home buyer, was, oh, great, mom and dad are going to tell me what to do with this place. But then as I started to see more the benefit that it was as an investment vehicle, I thought, okay, great, mom and dad are helping me get into this amazing investment. And then it started to snowball into the conversations that I was having with parents that had younger children, where, you look at the opportunity that was afforded to you as parents as well. You got into a real estate investment with first-time homebuyer benefits, with decreased down payment requirements, with no land transfer or very little land transfer tax upon sale. There was a great opportunity there as a family to build wealth. And so it wasn't just a one-way benefit where you guys were gifting me an opportunity and I owed you. It made me realize that there was opportunity on your part as well. And we've seen how that sort of progressed over the last close to, well, I guess it's almost closer to a decade now.
Yeah, I think what is it, 7 years now?
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, everybody can benefit as long as, again, you have those what could be uncomfortable discussions, and everybody can help get moving forward in the real estate world. And eventually, as you've proven, starting with a stepping stone with a 540 square foot condo to building up to a larger condo and then eventually to a home, the opportunities are endless if you break into the housing market. So not to drag this call on any longer than we need to, because you've been great. You've answered a lot of questions. And like I said, I think you bring a fresh perspective to what younger people might be thinking about, struggling with, and wondering whether or not now is the right time to break into the real estate market. And I guess the only thing I can say to them is that the best time to have broken into the real estate market was yesterday. And today is better than it's going to be tomorrow. So don't wait, don't hesitate, ask questions, make sure that you're well informed. And if family has the ability, or you have the means to benefit by family assistance, then by all means, it's open. Make sure you open up the discussion. If you don't have the benefit of having financial assistance from family, that's not a bad thing either. Let's make sure that we get you where you can go without having to rely on family assistance or family help throughout the process. So don't give up the idea of buying because you may or may not have the family help along the way. Investigate it, ask the questions. So without going on too much longer, without going on longer at all, I think we've pretty much run out of time. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on and giving this talk.
Thanks.
If anybody wants to reach out to you, they can reach out through me to get to you. And I'm sure you would offer up your time to speak to people from a financial perspective as to how you might be able to give them some advice as well. So
yeah, I'm happy to.
I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. And like I said, if you need to reach Ben or myself, by all means, reach out to me. I'll put you in touch. And happy house hunting, happy home ownership, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Thanks so much. Take care.